What's up guys, it's Drac, and if you're watching this video and you're not familiar with my content at all, let's get you caught up to speed. I like to make Nerf blasters. I like to make Nerf blasters, review Nerf blasters, and tinker with Nerf blasters. I do all of this these days using 3D printers. I used to do it using PVC and Dremels and epoxy putty to build ramps and then like clothespins for triggers. Now everything is done with 3D printers, and as such, I run a web store with a small fleet of about 30 printers, most of which are Prusa Mark IIIs. I really like the Prusa Mark III. I have a few thoughts on the Prusa Mini, but it's done its job. The Prusa is a wonderful setup. I'm thrilled to have one of the first, not the first, but one of the first Prusa XLs. Paid full price for this, bought an assembled model, and I figured that this was a interesting enough 3D printing video that it made sense to put it on my main channel. So if you're just here for the Nerf content, you don't care at all about 3D printing, you can skip this one. If you really care about 3D printing and you want to hear from an expert, then great. This is as unbiased a review as possible. I intend to install this into my fleet of printers for my web store where we make parts for Nerf blasters. Like I said, paid full price. This is the fully assembled version with 2 tool heads. Just showed up. It's the 13th of July, so it's pretty soon in terms of their shipping cycle, and I felt like I got mine early enough that it might be valuable to make a product review for you guys. I do a lot of product reviews on toys. I've done a few on printers in the past, but this one is very exciting, and again, I'm a little bit biased because I am a big fan of the Prusa ecosystem. Realistically, if you have a fleet of printers and you know anything about managing like multiple slicers and profiles and nonsense and materials, the more consistency you can add to that, the better. A lot of people have been talking about this is a Mark IV. We've been testing this recently. A lot of people have been like, the bamboo is so much better. I disagree politely. So with that said, this should be the easiest possible setup for this guy, as evidenced by it's got a little, gotta be careful with that tilt. Ooh, it's got a little pull tab here. Oh, it was so satisfying until the cardboard broke. Now this is just getting, this is, Czech Republic doesn't make cardboard like they used to. Okay, here we go. Now we've got a real, we've choked up on it. Woo! So in case you can't tell, the primary advantage of the Prusa Mark IV XL, maybe it's just the Prusa XL, is that it's humongous. Compared to the regular Prusa bed size, which is of course Cartesian, it's about 250 by 210 by 205. Not quite a cube, but pretty close. Print things that are yay big. This should be a monster with all of the bells and whistles that we've come to expect from the ecosystem. Oh boy. So that unboxing process was relatively simple. Oh, look at this, there's assembly instructions. Thank you for purchasing the original Prusa XL. There's the signature. Joseph Prusa, Joseph Prusa, Joseph Prusa. Instructions, etc. Ours should be largely assembled from the get-go. Looks like they're sending us a roll of Prusa Galaxy Black with it. Nice of them to include. Their standard 3D printing handbook, but this one has the XL on it. They've also got a library for files and all sorts of stuff out there. If you're not as familiar with Prusa and their whole kind of open source printer system, then I'm not entirely sure why you're watching a video on it, but this should allow us to make just larger parts than we've been able to do in the past. So we're excited for this and a variety of its features. It looks like this is actually the brain in this. We've got a printed casing for a Prusa XL board and brain and body. So that will have to be assembled in some form or fashion. A little funny that this isn't attached because it definitely was on the Mark IV. It's also very reminiscent if you're still using a Mark III. This is a full color setup on the Mark IV. It looks like the XL is going to be the same way. So we can pull some of this off. Don't throw away parts inside. Oh my God. The moment is now. It's amazing. So when you order the Prusa Mini, you get mini Haribo bears, which are the best gummy bears, just period. When you order a Prusa, you get a regular bag of them. I don't even forget the printer. You get XL gummy bears. This is the kind of quality 3D printer review details that you don't get with the professionals. You know what I'm saying? So this comes off. This is pretty easy to uninstall. So here's our XL multi-tool neck extruder setup in here, and it's interesting. This is probably important. A little nut just fell off. Then inside it's got a spool holder, and then you have what effectively is an entire tool head for printing PLA in one thing. This is definitely, even though we bought the quote unquote assembled model, there's gonna be some light assembly required. So we might jump cut to that next, but we'll finish the disassembly process first here. Hey, it's the standard suite of screwdrivers and scrapers, a USB drive, some Velcro for cable management, isopropyl wipes, lube, and other knickknacks. Printer is almost too big to fit in frame. It'll be easier for you guys to see this thing once it's kind of out and about. Jake's off camera here and he's gonna help me get this out of the box so that we don't warble it. So 3, 2, 1, up, over, down. And you get an extra bed. Who wouldn't want an extra bed? All right. Major pumping required. All right, so despite being a pre-assembled model, gosh, gummy bears. This thing took about an hour to put together. So it's a combination of making sure that everything is installed correctly, calibrated correctly, it's heating and cooling correctly. Prusa includes a receipt that basically tells you that before it left the factory, it did all of those things, but then they clearly disassembled a bunch of it. So effectively, this is a Core XY machine that goes 360 by 360 by 360. It is a 360 cube. That's a massive volume upgrade over the original Prusa's kind of setup there. And the stability of its all metal construction is awesome. It's allowing it to be pretty quick. We're currently running a multi-material, multi-color kind of calibration test here. And then we have every intention of running some of our parts on it to kind of get a gauge of if it is as clean and as smooth printing as something like the Mark IV is, which is doing amazing high quality prints, auto leveling, etc. The days of having to go through with a sheet of paper and calibrate your first layer are done. While I am technically right now in the process of watching it do the first layer, it's very clear that this thing is operating on a level of precision and fail-safe where I don't have to do that. I mean, if you trust your printer to acquire its head and pull it out, I think that you have to trust it to hit the bed at the right place in the right time. The full color setup down here is excellent. The fact that it's using USB is very nice. I did not like the SD cards on our fleet of Mark IIIs, so it's very nice that now the Mark IV and the XL are gonna operate on full-size USBs. I think that that's pretty sweet. The overall footprint of the printer is large. There's no getting around that. It is a large format printer, but when you compare it to something like, can you tilt this? I'm gonna let my camera operator tilt over this way. When you compare it to something like a Creality CR10 Max over Yay, which is, you know, a little bit taller than an AT-AT and just as wide as a Clone Troop carrier, you wind up with something that is ultimately a more compact system doing more things. So in that respect, you know, it's a much better machine for something like fleet operation. And if you've noticed this cutesy little antenna hanging off the back, it is theoretically Wi-Fi operable. Now, I really like the ability to store lots of large files for an entire fleet of printing for like your entire store inventory on a drive and just stick it in manually. But, you know, with multiple of these on the way, this might be the kind of thing that finally pushes us over the edge and gets us to start wirelessly sending or even just starting and monitoring prints. It might be convenient to do things like sync the prints. But as I've been talking, we've moved from our first layer to our second layer on this keychain, which is kind of cool. Overall, the ability to store at least the first two on the side with the built-in spool holders is nice. I'm pretty confident that we could attach 2 more on this side for the extra heads. Now, if you wanted all 5 of the tools on your Prusa XL, then you had to wait significantly longer, and we were just excited to get this in and start tinkering with it immediately, particularly since Dragon Con's coming up and we have some Mandalorian stuff, including the helmets and the back plates and the jetpack pieces. Those tend to be pretty large, and previously we relied on the CR10 Max, which is very slow, albeit very large. It will be nice to see if we can get the same quality and precision and laminate layer adhesion that we're used to out of a fleet of Prusas. But I'm not gonna end the video formally here as much as I wanna get this video out soon so that you guys can kind of get our thoughts. I mean, up and running, first hour impressions is we're very impressed by it. It did come together very nicely. The footprint is reasonable, especially when you consider the massive volume upgrade that you get over the standard Prusa. The price is definitely something that you're gonna have to evaluate for yourself. If this is your only printer, like a one printer, I think that having a larger printer is just like Jinx. As I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted, it's just like a safe. If you buy only one safe, you want to have more space than you think you're going to need, because you will quickly find things that you want to print that are bigger, you'll find things that you want to print in greater volume, etc. So as a one printer, I think that it's worth the additional expense to just get a big printer, especially one that's smart and will do as much as this will right off the bat, rather than have a multi-material printer and a large form printer and a fast, precise printer. Why not just have all of that in one printer and ultimately save yourself some pain? Beyond that, you kind of have to decide if you're doing fleet printing, if it's worth the additional expense, and I think that's really going to come down to whether or not your inventory has items that benefit from this larger print bed. There are advantages to reducing your human hours. You know, clearly I could put 12 foregrips on this bed size and let them all run over a 30-hour print, as opposed to, you know, doing them in batches of 4 and having to go in and switch and possibly having downtime on the human side in the form of like labor and picking and packing. But overall, I mean, it's a remarkably precise machine. It's very clean. I could speak about the industrial design, but frankly, Prusa doesn't really care about that very much. It's built for function and ease of maintenance, not necessarily for beauty or aesthetics. In that respect, I think of it as a tool, and the price is less relevant for me personally, because I know that the machine will pay for itself over the course of its first month of operation. And so if it survives a month, I'm gonna be absolutely pleased with it. And if it doesn't survive a month, I'm gonna be very upset with Prusa customer service. You know, right now it's doing its thing. Let's let it print something large. We'll come back and give you our final thoughts in a couple of days when we know more about like how we feel about it overall, and the glow of new has worn away just a smidge. All right, so record scratch aside, hopefully you guys can tell that it's been a couple of days. We've gotten used to the Prusa XL, and we're disappointed, man. It's rough. We did a couple of test prints, like greebly nonsense, and those worked pretty okay. The way that this works is it has 16 separate heatable zones. That's for both energy efficiency, and theoretically it's for, you know, greater stupid proofing. It makes it easier to use. It makes it so that it uses less energy on small prints, and it makes it so that it has control of these different heatable zones and could theoretically use that to level and balance different factors. This zone here, pretty good. This is its primary zone. It likes to live here or here. And to that end, we printed one of these just as an aside for a use case. This has the advantage of fitting in the build area. This is our top rail for a new Zuru blaster product. This one we printed on a CR10. This was just our test fit. This is our production without any like cleanup necessarily, but we're very happy with this part. The thing that I'm not happy about is we were like, okay, Prusa XL, very smart machine, working really well, printed this part is gorgeous. We are ready to move from the testing video stage into the production stage. And I either want to do a Mandalorian helmet, or I just want to get these parts into production so that I can get them to customers. So we're going to do a group of these things, and we laid them out on the bed such that tweedle, blah, blah, blah. So there's 5 of them. They were a cross effectively. And we got a min temp error. And I was like, that's really strange. Like, brand new machines shouldn't be getting a min temp error, and the bed is warm, but the bed wasn't unilaterally warm. So I was like, great, no big deal. I told my senior designer over here to slice up a grid, and I was like, let's find the error. So this is, really good representation of how big the grid pattern is on this machine. So we ran this just to see what would happen, run the grid, min temp error. And I'm like, frustrated. What are you gonna do? So we start troubleshooting, we get online with Prusa, we start playing with it, and we discover, and this is gonna be a little tricky, but I think that I can tilt it. Yeah, I'm gonna, because at this point it's not working anyway. These are all of the different cables that connect the brain to the array for the heating element. They exist in sets of 4, blah, 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 and you can see how this one isn't plugged in. And the reason for that is that it's right here. And if you look closely at it, you can see that this is completely detached. And then we're gonna look even closer at it. All right, with focus in place here, I just want you guys to be able to see. The issue here is not that this wire fell out or pulled out. The issue here is that these pins are meant to be crimped in and then pushed in to the module. And this one just wasn't crimped. So spoiler, if you don't crimp the wire and you don't solder the wire, then you wind up in a position where the wire falls out on a mobile platform like this, leading to a temp error, effectively shorting the heating element and making the entire machine unusable. This is a $3 part as far as Prusa is concerned. This is a 2-cent mistake. This is a 2,500 plus XYZ machine. Mistakes like this are unacceptable. And I'd be willing to give them the benefit of the doubt because, again, I like Prusa, but we spent about an hour online with their very slow customer service trying to get another one of these cables, and their gut check, their first reaction to it was, can't you guys just fix it? And yes, probably, possibly, question mark, yes, I can disassemble this, actually crimp the wire that you missed, put it back together, and then hopefully not destroy anything else in the process of doing so. Plug it back in and then maybe it'll work. But why am I 48 hours in doing maintenance on my $2,500 machine so that I can get it to do the thing that I paid for it to do in the first place? Our labor is significantly more valuable to me than a 2-cent mistake or a $3 part. And I'm just a little bummed. I'm bummed with that customer service response. I don't think that it's reflective of the personal conversations I've had with Joseph Prusa at Murph and things like that in the past. And then more than anything, I'm bummed that, I got a brand new premium product and I wanted to make a video for you guys telling you guys that it's amazing and that you should definitely consider implementing it in your farm. And instead, the conclusion to this video is that I'm gonna have to spend about 30 minutes fixing their mistakes so that I can keep running it. And hopefully they eventually dispatch a replacement part and I can replace the module completely. The printer is open source. It's designed to be modular. Theoretically, it is very fixable. It just, feels bad to be fixing something so nice, so expensive, so new. This will probably be the end of this video. If you see this on my Instagram, you can follow me at Lord Drac. Then you'll be able to follow along the process of us kind of repairing it and getting it into production and whether or not we decide to move forward with another one. But what are you gonna do? So I feel like there are a lot of people who are sent sponsored units and they would never tell a story like this explicitly, but between this and a couple of the experiences that not only myself, but a good professional colleague of mine has had with the Prusa Minis, it's worth pointing out that open source is amazing and dynamic modular design is really good. And the printers, when they work, are excellent. They produce just superior quality parts. However, not all that glitters is gold. Production over on these is clearly, moving at a pace where they want to get them out as quickly as possible, but, a 2-cent mistake winds up with hours lost in customer service and troubleshooting. So, we're not 100% pleased, and I feel like that is, worthy of reflecting in the video, but that's just my take. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think. Do you have one of these on pre-order? Is that why you watched my video? Are you just a fan of the Nerf content? And if so, what do you think we should print with something so large, assuming we get it up and trucking again? I mean, we definitely want to open up and start. Do I have one sitting over here? We want to start selling our Mandalorian helmets. My senior designer is a huge Star Wars geek, and we've got some one-of-a-kind, really cool props and stuff. And the purpose of this machine, in addition to batch production of large-scale parts over the weekend, was also that we wanted to kind of open up into that realm. So if you think that that'd be neat, I actually enjoyed making this video. I think that, maybe we'll make some videos on that stuff in the future, especially with Dragon Con and Gen Con coming up and, all sorts of exciting stuff in that realm. But anyway, that's one tinker's take on the Prusa XL. Hopefully we get it up and running again. You could see my excitement early on in the video because I'm stoked to have something this cool in the workshop, and then you could see my excitement kind of as we have these hiccups. But what are you gonna do? Thanks so much for watching. Let me know, comments down below. Really appreciate you guys' interaction and feedback. Happy to answer them personally down there. Much love. Blast on. Drac out.